In this video, we're going to see how to use our calculator to solve equations. And this is actually really important. It's one of the things you have to do the most often using your calculator on the AP exam. So we've got to really make sure if we have these two things that we want to be equal, how do we figure out what x values make those things equal? All right, so the strategy we're going to use is we're going to graph both functions using our y equals button. We can look at the graphs to kind of visualize where the intersection is going to be. I don't try to guesstimate. It looks like it's 2.2 or something like that to figure out your y values. You're going to use these trace thing is actually the calc command, and then intersect. You get to see where the two functions intersect. And again, if functions are intersecting, that means they're equal to each other. All right, so let's see a demonstration. Let's go and do this problem. Cosine of 2x plus e to the x equals x squared minus 6x plus 4. This would be, actually, I'm not even sure if it is possible to solve by hand. You'd have to like isolate these x's. One's in an exponent, one's in a trig function, one's mixed up in a quadratic. So this would be, if not impossible, really hard to solve for x. So we want to use the calculator to be able to do this. And also, if this was on the calculator section of the test, even if you could solve it by hand, you might as well use the calculator, make it do all the hard work. All right, so let's see how we're going to do this. Again, the first thing is we want to go to y equals and just type in our two functions, cosine of 2x plus e raised to the x. And one of the things that takes you a while when you're having used the calculator very often is just finding these buttons. The more you do it, the quicker you'll get at it. Our other side of our equation is x squared minus 6x plus 4. And again, one thing that people try to do is try to type like both in one line, but you're typing the two sides of the equation separately. And now if I look at my graph, I know I can see my intersection is right here. All right, so if you look at the trace button in blue above, it's the calc command, or the calc set of commands. So if I do second trace, I'm going to get this list of different things I can do. So I can find a value for a specific x value, I can find a 0, I can find a min and a max, but the big one we're looking for at this one is intersect. You can also see down here, derivatives, something we'll see in a little bit. But intersections is the important one. So you can either scroll down to 5 or just click the number 5. Right. And it says first curve, question mark. So one thing you can do, if you click up and down, it switches between my blue graph and my red graph. It switches between your two different ones. If you had 3, you could switch between all 3. But let's just start. It started on the blue graph. Let's start on the blue graph. And it says first curve, question mark. You want to put this little cursor close to the intersection. So I'll just kind of scroll right a little bit along this graph. And right there, it's close. Don't think this is the answer. All right, this is just an x value that's close to the intersection I want. So now I'm going to hit enter. And you see it automatically switches to the other graph. And now it says second curve, question mark. And again, I just want to kind of scroll along this graph. But I want to get close to the intersection. So that's close enough. Hit enter again. And then it says guess. So I got to hit enter one more time and make it guess. And now I can see the exact value of that intersection. So the answer is 0.321. In calc, you round to 3 decimal places. Also, you can truncate. So 320 or 321 would be acceptable answers. All right, so if we just go through that again, let's just change one of the functions a little bit. Let's change this. If I change this to multiplication instead, how bad is the graph? Okay, yeah. All right, so now let's say we had this graph. Let's say we only care about 0 to 2. So there's a bunch of intersections over here, but we only care about this one. All right, let's try to find this one. Maybe you want to see if there's one intersection or two, because it's kind of hard to see what's happening. So maybe you want to zoom in a little bit. So let's zoom into that spot. Oh, way too far. Way too far again. It's a problem with holding it down. All right, so I'm going to zoom into this just to kind of see what's happening. And I see it does look like it intersects twice. So let's just find one of the intersections. I'm going to do second trace, intersect. So I'm going to hit 5. And then move my cursor close to that first intersection, which is about there. Hit enter again, because now I'm on the second curve close to it. Hit enter again, because I want to guess. And that's my first intersection. But the first intersection is 6, 5, 7. And now, again, if I just want to do it really quickly, intersect, scroll to that second intersection, which looks like it's about there. Enter, enter, enter. And now I get my second intersection. All right, this is how we can solve equations quickly. Again, the thing is you might need to change your viewing window to kind of see where the intersection is. You saw there, I had to actually make sure there wasn't more than one intersection by zooming in. These are the things you just kind of get used to when you're looking at graphs. This used to be really hard back in the day when we had just the black and white screens, because you couldn't kind of tell which graph was which once they're all graphed. But the newer calculators with the colors makes it a lot simpler. I can see exactly where the kind of red and blue cross each other. All right, so that's how you can solve equations using your calculator. Some calculators have something called like polysolve or trig-solve and all these different ways it can solve equations. That's also an option if you know how to use it, but this is the way that pretty much people have been doing it for calc forever. So this is going to be the way they're kind of expecting you to do it on the test as well. All right, so just a recap, we're going to solve equations using our calculator by graphing them and seeing their intersections.